All right, we are back at it on the SuccessFlow podcast, and today we're going to dive in to the bamboo banger that gets thrown around a lot, almost to the point where we're over 100 episodes in and can't believe we didn't think about this topic, but it's been on my mind lately. And we're going to be diving into courage, which I'm starting to feel that this chapter of my life is the most underrated force in the modern world. Everything you're doing takes courage. The ability to choose a career, to join a team, to build a company, to pick a partner, to reproduce with that partner, to guide another human being through life takes immense courage. In every moment, we're deciding to be courageous, or is the opposite of courageous comfort? We'll talk through that, but that's the topic for the day. What are your thoughts, Stephen Harris?
Great topic. It is the opposite of comfort. When you're comfortable, you're not challenging yourself on purpose. Having courage develops confidence, develops creativity. It develops clarity and excitement. When you're kind of riding the wave, just even keeled, not being as courageous as you probably could be or should be, you don't get the opportunity to hit the big wave or the opportunity to really find out what you're capable of. And so making that move, whether it's, cross country, because you feel like you want to, it's choice move, or making that move because you got a career opportunity, but you're nervous about it. Having the courage to make that jump will allow you to learn and grow and figure out what this thing called life is all about. So it's a great topic. And I do think it does get tossed around a lot, but are people really acting courageously? Are they actually in the moment taking the courage to take that action?
And as you say that, I realize that because of a conversation, another thing that's thrown around a lot these days, which I've gotten frustrated with because I had it, but now I've reframed it because of a conversation I had with a close colleague, is the term imposter syndrome. Everyone says, I've got imposter syndrome, which is really this corporate or professional blanket of fear. It's just fear. And that, I guess, is the opposite of courageous, is being fearful. And I think Chris Williamson, Modern Wisdom, who's impacted this podcast from my perspective a ton, said it the best when he said, he didn't mention imposter syndrome, but he said, even if you are faking the act of being courageous, if you're faking it, that is an act of courage itself. And I was like,
boom. Well, that's be it till you see it. That's your favorite. Instead of fake it till you make it, be it till you see it. Be courageous until you actually are courageous, right? And exactly. That is being courageous.
100%. And I guess why are we numb to the name or to the word courage? It's everywhere in film. Back to our hero's journey conversation, media, film. We love courage as human beings. I think it's because it takes courage to be a human being and make it through day by day. But again, you think that's why we're numb to it?
I think courage is quiet. I think that it's just the whisper in our minds that's saying, just say yes because you don't want to make the other person feel bad. Or it's just like always there courage, that's the opposite. Courage is saying no when saying yes would be easier, right? And I think it's just a quiet thing that should always be in the back of our minds that allows us to really focus on making change. And whatever that is for yourself or for others or whatever, you have to have courage to disrupt or make change. And so there's a lot of times where it is easier to say yes and do, or not go to the gym, because, going to the gym every single day is having courage to be there as healthy as possible. Right. There's so many little daily actions that we take that can be courageous. They don't have to be these huge life-saving type of opportunities. They're just little acts of courage every single day to better ourselves personally and professionally.
I think I love breaking down words like this as we're preparing for the podcast. And when you look at the word courage, core is the main part, obviously, of the word, which if you think about, within your core is your heart. So core is Latin for heart, and the age is led. So it's heart-led versus ego-led. It's literally what your embodiment's telling you to do, not your ego, not in the mind. Though getting those connected is the ideal, which is for another podcast. But getting out of the ego and what is your ultimate being telling you is right and where you should go, what direction you should be, that's when you're taking courage. And that one of the first things that came up is just the act of marriage, dude. Like you've led by example from this long before I was even open to the concept. And I think choosing a partner is one of the most courageous things I've done, which may sound silly to people. I think it comes naturally to some, but it was terrifying for me until it wasn't, because it was heart led, it wasn't ego led. The song, the song Hallelujah by Rufus Wainwright.
Yeah, for sure.
That's all about marriage and monogamy, and how the quote, love is not a victory march. It's a cold and it's a broken hallelujah. It's like the beauty of a partnership like that takes courage and resilience to get through. Anyway, that's thrown a lot out at the beginning, but tying those all together was one of the first things that came to mind.
Yeah, and it's very much it isn't a trait. It's very much a muscle that you develop by these little daily acts. Like going back to the marriage example, you've got a relationship before you get to that point. You have ups and downs with that person to figure out if this is your life partner. Getting into a relationship sometimes could be reckless to start, but you have the courage to keep going if it aligns with your core values and beliefs and whatever. And then pulling that commitment cord of, yeah, let's do this. Like, let's make this happen. And I think, divorce ends, 50% of marriages end in divorce. And that's
wild stuff.
Always in the back of our minds too, because that's what society tells us. And that is a level of fear. And that's
a coin toss is scary.
Taking that leap of faith is so difficult I think, and why it is so courageous to do that, because the odds are almost stacked against you that it's not going to work out. And you have this fear of, so you can't live that way. It's just this is the choice that I've made, the life I want to build with this person. And as long as you guys are growing together, obviously, like there's situations where, there's a reason why divorce is probably the right move. But as long as you continue to evolve and grow together, like there is no plan B. This is your life. This is what you chose. And this is not to say you can't go back in your choice, but you continue to develop and encourage the other person to grow with you. And I think that's what is really neat about this word courage, is being able to almost like force it upon others as you continue to build a life together.
I love that you just dropped that there as we were talking before jumping on. Never tied the two words together, which makes...
I know, I haven't either.
I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
How cool is that? We think of courage as an individual thing, this heroic, loud thing. I love how you said it's quiet. It's a whisper. Because encouragement I guess it can be quiet. Absolutely, it can be quiet. But the ability to pass along courage because of your perspective and your faith in another human being is so damn cool. But it's the same thing. And I'll never look after this podcast, the word encourage the same way. We both talked about how that's what we're trying to do, is whatever courage we have, which I know I could use a little bit more. Let's pass on what we've got to the people that we believe in that are on the path and aligned.
I love that so much. I feel like I love being behind the scenes and encouraging others towards their own success and ideas and opportunities, because I feel like every single person on this planet has the ability to make an impact and do something. And if there's any little grain of encouragement that I can give somebody, because I believe that it's possible for them, and they take that one step forward, and I need no recognition. I just enjoy that so much. Like, I just really enjoy being that operator behind the scenes that helps others grow. And I feel like that's my calling, and like it just being involved in helping other people achieve their dreams. Like, I'm such a dreamer, man, that I think dreamers dream, and everybody should have dreams, but you've got to have the courage to go after them. And you got to execute it, but not even execute, because you may not know how to execute. So you've got to just act and then figure out how to execute, right? Like, you may execute poorly.
I guess those are, if we're talking linearly, those could be steps. Like messy action, we talk about that a lot. Get sloppy, just move, not consume and sit. I mean, I don't know. I love just sitting, but while not consuming.
Yeah, there's a time and place, like for sure. Like after hooping today, I was like, I'm going to throw some ice on the knees and I'm just going to sit and drink coffee and not think about any. Like, it was fantastic. It was a great time. My wife and I sat and drank coffee and we got a chance to connect and all that stuff. It was great. But I think, so going back to the courage thing, like when you encourage others, it instills courage back into you. that in and of itself is courage. You taking the extra step to
inception.
encourage others.
Inception of
like,
courage.
It really is. It's like, it's so neat. And it brings it there. I don't know, like when you accomplish a goal, maybe, are you the same way? Or maybe it's just me, but when I accomplish a goal or accomplish a project or finish something and I'm like on flow and I'm building things out and it's like really cool and I'm really excited. But when I've brought an idea to someone else for their sake, like hey, I think you could do this and I think you could do it really well. And then they accomplish it. I get so much more jacked up and happy for them than I do my own goal. Like I that's almost like a fault of mine is I don't get it. I don't reflect back on wins and successes that I personally had, but I'll reflect back and think about the wins and successes of other, like, man, you just absolutely dominate. Like that was awesome. It was so cool to see. And if I have any little hand in that, I think it's really neat. And so it jacks me up even more to encourage others. And I think if anyone else listening to this does that, they probably have a similar feeling where if we can just be out there and encourage people to find their own opportunities and act on their own ideas and just to live a life that's full, the world would just be in a far better place. And it's not a me thing. And I think it takes courage in order to project that focus on to other people.
I think that's just true leadership from the front lines in the trenches when you live it. And when you think about the word encourage, I know the listeners may get tired of hearing about Gento, but we don't really care because it's so important. And hopefully the listeners are finding a group of their own that does the same. But when helping kind of shepherd for the year that I did not want to do, your encouragement is really the only thing that kept me going. I didn't know what I was doing. Each week I was like, is there any value here? And if it weren't for you doing that, I wouldn't have made it through that year. And so I think you're spot on about it being one of your true strengths. And it is quiet. It's quiet, but it's ever present. It's an interesting combo and it's rare, dude.
I appreciate that. Yeah. I don't like the recognition. I've said this for many, many years. I'll take a moment and enjoy it, but I don't do it for recognition. I don't need it. I appreciate you saying that, but I really, truly want to help people feel confident in their ability because you've got the ability, especially if I see it in somebody too, and I think that there's a real opportunity to do something that's really cool there. And it could be like, to go back to like the courage to eliminate something like a relationship or a bad habit or whatever, like those are tough decisions when you've had this identity and you're like, this is who I am. Like, this is the people I hang out with. And this is, this is where I'm going because of X, Y, Z. And it's like, if you have the courage to eliminate the things that aren't serving you to create a better life for yourself, because you owe it to yourself, for your family and for those that are around you, as well as the legacy you want to leave behind, having that courage to make that pivot. And it doesn't happen with like one massive pivotal moment. Now it could in certain areas of your life. You could have a health scare, or you could have something tragically happen where you're like, I got to make some changes. But more often than not, it's like when you decide that shift, it's because of over time, little courageous acts throughout the day that you have this isn't serving me. Or maybe you just grow older and you're like, this is what I want the rest of my life to look like. So I've got to eliminate X, Y, Z. But it's not easy stuff. I've been doing it for half your life. So having the courage to eliminate those things, I think, is something that we need to focus on, and not having the courage to go act and add more and do more. It's, how do I tone it down and find more alignment?
Back to the essentialism. We've been talking a lot about courage. It's great. It's obviously a trait and virtue that is a part of humanity, and we want to find all well and good. We've praised it at some, but let's talk about the cost. Let's talk about, like, all good things. Everything that you do has a cost. And yeah. I think that the cost of courage goes back to our mammalian brain and how we worked as cavemen, hunters, gatherers. The fear isn't the failure of the actual act, it's the excommunication from the tribe. And it takes me back. I didn't realize I had this in my notes when we were talking about the opposite of courage. But there was a quote by Jim Hightower that said the opposite of courage is not cowardice, it's conformity. And we talk about society as a bell curve. And if you're listening to this, you're probably on one side of the bell curve and trying to move along it. And mediocrity is a thing for a reason. Average is a thing. And you have to be a maverick and go against the grain, swim upstream, whatever metaphor we want to use, to do anything of value. If you're doing what society does, you're a part of the herd. You're not defining success for yourself. So what are your thoughts about the costs of courage?
It's like the opportunity cost. It's like if you say yes to this thing, that comfort, right? You say yes to, I'm lounging on the couch today. I'm not going on the gym. I'm not going to the gym. What is the cost of that, right? So the cost of courage, like you have this routine, you have an identity of success, all these things. But what is actually costing you in the long run if you're not happy inside, right? And so I think you have to figure out, so James Clear in his book about habit stacking and all the identity shift and preparation, and I talk about preparation a lot, and preparation without action it's not courageous, right? And so you don't rise to the level of your preparation, you rise to the level of your decision to show up. And so you have to have this courage to show up day in and day out. And so the cost of not having that courage, you're one step behind the next guy or gal who is showing up. And that's the first step is looking at, and it's not necessarily that life is a competition, but if you're looking at it as a business sense versus your competitors and whatever, have the courage to look at it as more of a partnership. How can we all win? Or have the courage to look at things a little differently than what, as you say, society says to do, and try something new. The worst thing that's going to happen is you'll fail. But what do we all get from failure? A learning opportunity to figure it out and move forward. And it's never a setback that sets us back forever. So, the cost of courage is not cheap. I think you have to have a work ethic, and you have to have a mindset shift that says I can and I am, in order to have the courage to do the things that you want to do. And when you are operating in this fear of what will others think of me if I do this thing that's a little bit out of the norm, then there is no disruption in a good way. Then you're not changing the course of what the world is that you live in, and you're just following their world or society's world that may not align if you want more and you need more. And needing more or wanting more isn't like stuff or wealth or whatever. It's really just fulfilling the purpose of being you, uniquely you. So it's an interesting.
It's really super interesting. And another thing I didn't realize as we were starting this pod, it wouldn't be the Successful podcast if we didn't talk about a book, right? And a guy that we've mentioned a lot on this podcast, and a philosophy that we have, is Stoicism and Ryan Holiday. And the book Courage is Calling, which I think I'm going to throw on the weighted vest and reread after we wrap right now. I didn't realize that courage was the first virtue in Stoicism. Like I thought I knew, like I'm just realizing, man, you're off on your study game of Stoicism. So awesome to have that fire lit, but you can't do anything without it. I think that's why I wanted to talk through this, and it's been so beneficial. It's where it feels super selfish, dude, that we're able to just sit here and rap because our brains are on a different.
Dude, the courage to just launch this podcast for no other goal other than just an opportunity to sit together week in and week out and just talk about a freaking word and just like literally. And we're both going to leave this thing and be like, oh man, like inspired and motivated and whatever. And that's the goal for this, like putting ourselves out there. And the goal for this podcast is to do the same thing for the listeners and for everyone that's hearing this conversation. Is like, just go do something. Like no one cares. Like no one cares. 100 years from now, no one cares. So now is the time for you to have the courage and take the action.
100%. And fear's biological. This isn't the absence of fear. It's the ability to take action with the fear present, which you've heard before. Everyone's heard it before. And the last thing I'd like to talk about is this is where I get to the nervous system. Our nervous systems are jacked between what we eat, what we consume media, what's in the airwaves, toxins, all the above. Get back to your nervous system, which is what drove me to this, and get it regulated. There are a number of ways to do this. Maybe we'll do a whole podcast on it, but how is your nervous system right now? As you're listening to this podcast, how does it feel? And do you have the ability to bring it down? Whether it's the breath, silence, a walk, music, all the things that we talk about on the pod. your nervous system is going to be the key to be able to act courageously. That's what I found for myself anyway. A regulated nervous system is the best thing you can share with others. Speaking of encouragement, people can feel it on you when your nervous system is regulated. I know people can feel when mine is not. And if you can work on that, the ability to act and make those decisions moment by moment, to be courageous, to do the things that you want to do is going to come easier. And again, do not have this solved by any means. I feel like it's everything. It's presence. It's going for after what you want. And just hope that you can take away something from this to make a small act of courage today, or maybe a big act within the next couple weeks.
100%. You bring up a really good point about the nervous system. And there's so many of us, myself included, that suffers from a bit of anxiety and panic attacks and things like that. They've happened over the course of my life at certain points. And I've been able to reel them in quite a bit because of things that I've had the courage to eliminate, as well as the courage to just breathe and get through those situations and develop the confidence and the understanding that I can do this. And there's a lot of people out there that I've seen firsthand with family members that they can't. There's no way. And it's like the decision to show up when you don't want to because you're afraid and you still show up, or the decision to run when you're supposed to stay. Constant
fight or flight is not courage.
Right. And so having the courage to stay the course and be like, I am fine. I will get through this. And whether it's a short experience or a long experience, it's a very courageous act to get through those, what feels like a life or death situations at times. The more you see yourself go through those things, the more you develop the muscle of courage and knowing that it's possible and that everything will be okay. So I'm glad you brought up the nervous system, because it's so tough to control sometimes when stuff out of your control, and it hits you like a ton of bricks. You don't even know why half the time you're feeling the way you feel and why you're nervous about this situation. You're just like, why is my heart racing? Why are my palms sweaty? Like, what is happening? And then it goes away, but it takes some time to get through it. I mean, public speaking, we talk about a lot, or just putting yourself out there, and it's always the judgment of what other people think. Like, having the courage of I don't care. This is literally, even if I embarrass myself, no one will remember it a week from now. Like, what, getting on camera on social media, if you're trying to grow a business and be, and just sharing your voice on a podcast or whatever, no one cares. And then all of a sudden it becomes, oh yeah, I've seen those videos. Like, the first couple of times you feel really weird about it. And you're like, I don't, this goes back to the imposter syndrome. I don't belong here.
What episode is this?
Yeah, this is like 109, 10. I don't know, something like that.
So I've embarrassed myself 110 times over the last couple.
Right? But we keep showing up. We have the courage to keep showing up. We have, you know how many weeks, we could literally just be like, you done?
Oh, we both thought about it.
And the good news is we both haven't thought about it, I don't think, yet at the same time. So we're going to keep rolling, because when you think about nah, man, I'm going to encourage you. Let's get on.
And on that note, we don't ask a lot on this podcast, rarely. I mean, sometimes at the end of every episode, but sincerely, if you could be courageous, listeners, and send this episode to someone that has encouraged you, that's your homework. And it's our gentleman's ask of you to pass it along. Again, we love doing this. We do it for us, but pass it along, and we'll be back at you next week. Yep.